Well, here I am back in my childhood, which I absolutely loved. I wouldn't want you to get the wrong impression. I loved being a kid, but it was quite a harsh time for some. And this is the story of my friend Christopher, who struggled with his work back at school and what happened to him. It's called The Ballad of Chistifer Ski. At school, I knew an older boy who could not write his name. With beetled brow he'd strive, but it was never twice the same. When term commenced, new books presented misery for him, who had to write his name on and expose his secret sin. And sure enough, the yearly ritual quickly came to pass. First day of school, world-weary teacher cruising round the class, assessing neatness, testing new boys' wills to make them buckle. His eyes are light upon a scrawly book. He starts to chuckle. The book is snatched up, held aloft, so everyone can see. Stop what you're doing, turn around, and all please look at me. Look at this mess, class. This boy thinks his name's Chistifer Ski. Well, as one we laughed and pointed in that cruel way children do, whilst Christopher looked sad and tired and stared down at his shoe. Already he'd stayed back a year, sent from the class next door. He took special lessons with Miss Smith along the corridor. And one thing now he knew for sure, as plain could be, that from this moment he'd be known as Thick Chistifer Ski. And so it was. My mum made friends with Chris's mum and sent me round to play. Well, I didn't want to go, but revelation came that day. The dim and Sullivan Chistifer, whom we all teased at school, was in the garden trying to dig a giant swimming pool. Watch what you're doing, donkey bonce. His mother sounded wild. But Chris just worked on quietly, then winked at me and smiled. This is a swamp I'm building. See, there's tripwires round the edge. I'll lure my mum to fall in here when she comes past the hedge. And then I'll turn the hosepipe on and make her even wetter. And if I could find a crocodile, that would be even better. Then Chris showed me the rabbit hutch he'd built all on his own, the go-kart that he'd made, the giant vegetables he'd grown, his highly detailed train set with its papier-mâché hill, embankments, girder bridges, stations fashioned by his skill. And Christopher knew how to fish and smoke and climb a tree, and how I wished that I was him and not just boring me. But when, next day, I saw him sitting in the corridor, ignoring poor Miss Smith by staring blankly at the floor, my newfound friend had gone, and there was Chistifer once more. As Chris grew up, he never mastered writing, maths, or learning. He never found a sympathetic girl to soothe his yearning. Eventually, he found a job just labouring in a yard where other workers pulled his leg and made his life quite hard. He found an old scrap bubble car and fixed it up quite neat, hand-painted it, then drove to work and parked it in the street. But whilst he wasn't looking, all his workmates, for a lark, just picked it up and carried it and smashed it in the park. Then I left home and went to college. Left him far behind. I didn't keep in touch. I thought he wasn't quite my kind. Then, some years later, passing through, I heard a kind of rumour. You know that thick kid, Chistifer? He's got some kind of tumour. And Christopher knew how to swim and how to mend a bike and how to catch a magpie or climb any tree you like. And Christopher played brilliant games of spacemen, pirates, crooks, and taught me how to do 1,000 things not found in books. And maybe it was just too hard, for though he tried and tried, he tired of being Chistifer, and that is why he died.